let's talk about death. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Lorena. I am a somatic self-concept and manifestation coach, and I support women to shift their self-concept, embody a new state of being sustainably, holistically, long-term through an emotionally integrated approach that I have developed so that you can step into your highest potential, essentially bridge the gap between who you currently are or see yourself as and who you desire to be or become. And that will enable you to align with your authentic soul desires and really manifest anything that you want in your life. If you like this type of content, then do please leave a like on the video and also subscribe if you want more videos like this or on the topics I mentioned. I also always love hearing from you in the comments below, and I invite you to check out the links in the description box also, because there you find some free resources to get you started on your self-concept journey, and you can also find information on how to work with me, be coached by me, join my coaching program so that you can take it a step further and finally become who you were always meant to be. Today we have a bit of a different vibe, bit of a different topic, but I'm really passionate about this and I think it's important to talk about it, and that is death. Now, normally everything that we talk about on this channel is how you can change your self-concept to align with the life that you desire. We will still do that in this video, but we need to really understand death in order to get there. Now, death is obviously a big topic. It can be a bit activating for some people to talk about this, but I've been thinking about it a lot lately, over the last few years actually, and I think as a society we don't talk about it or think about it often enough. It's like we all walk around as if we're gonna live forever, when the only thing that is guaranteed to us in this life is that we will not live forever. No one knows when it is going to happen, how it is going to happen. There's a lot in life that we cannot control, but if there's one thing we really can't control, it's this. And this is actually partly what makes me so passionate about giving you these teachings, teaching you how you can transform your self-concept, coaching my wonderful clients through this and witnessing their transformation and really enabling them to become the highest expression of themselves. Because there's no freaking time to waste. I want you to be able to step into your most aligned and authentic and expansive embodiment, because I truly believe that nobody has to settle. I don't think, if you're watching this, I don't think you're here for a mediocre life. And the thing is, we only get this one life, at least in this body, in this lifetime, as who you are today. So I think we should all make it count. So many people are stuck in a rut. So many people are not going for the things that they truly want, either not being clear on what they truly want, or maybe they are not willing to go for what they truly want. They're just playing small, not taking any risks, not embracing the unknown. And whilst that is one way to live your life, it's not going to give you all the possibilities. And why not really use the one life we have? Now, I just want to tell you, before I go into the lessons that death can teach you about life and about your manifestations, why this has become such a big topic for me. And that's because over the last few years, I have moved through a lot of grief, a lot of it. Both in terms of physical deaths, I've lost people in my life, I've lost my cat last year, but also the more intangible forms of death. You know, you can also experience death in the form of an idea dying, or a relationship dying, or something else ending. Death is an ending. And so we experience it all the time. We experience endings all the time. We experience little deaths all the time. We experience the death of relationships, jobs, friendships, and so on. Now, I've experienced both physical losses, as I said, but I've also experienced these other types of deaths. I went through a massive heartbreak a few years ago, the ending of a relationship. I've lost my soul cat to cancer last year. I lost multiple jobs over the last few years, but I think that was truly a divine intervention, because That's why I'm here right now, actually living and following my purpose. So that's all good. I also had to let quite a few friendships go, which was massively painful too. Now, aside from these physical deaths, it all turned out to be a blessing, and I'm actually grateful for the losses. They taught me a lot. They brought me further on my journey. They ultimately supported me because I did the work based on that. I really made an effort to work through these emotional charges, through this pain, through this grief every time, and that turned me into who I am today. That supported me in shifting into the self-concept that I live from right now. It enabled me to call in new and better experiences and new relationships that are so much better than what I used to have. And so it's been super transformative. Now, I want to address the topic of your self-concept in the context of death as well. Grief changes your self-concept when you make the effort to use that grief, to use that pain as fuel. I always speak about how when I work with my clients, and I do this in my own process and with my own mentors, it is really a process of alchemy, of taking the things that hurt the most and you're able to channel them into your desires, into becoming a different version of yourself in the best way. That doesn't happen naturally. You do need to put in the work to make that happen. And that's what I support you with primarily. Really, the manifestations and the external results are just a side effect of that. But death also plays a really big role in changing your self-concept, because changing your self-concept is a process of dying. It's a process of rebirth. It's a rebirth of yourself. And I do feel like I want to make a separate video on this. So let me know if this is something you would like. Leave me a comment if this is something that interests you. But when you change your self-concept, you essentially begin by releasing parts of yourself that were never you to begin with. You are shedding old layers of yourself, which ultimately enables you to become someone new. And when I say become someone new, I don't mean less of you, I mean more of you. So it's not a different person or a completely different identity. It's just a different version of who you already are, who you are at the core, who you have always been but maybe not had access to. The version of you that gets to embody more of your potential, of what is already accessible to you. But it requires a rebirth. And every rebirth starts with a death. There is no rebirth without death. Now let's get into what death teaches you about life, how it supports you in your manifestations, on your journey of healing, of transformation. I've got 5 for you. And let's start with grief. Because as I said, loss is a part of life. And grief is such a portal. Grief is also not just an emotional state. It's a process that you have to move through when something is taken away or when you lose something. It's actually a cocktail of emotions. It's not just one. And the flip side of grief is love. There is no grief if you don't first love what you are grieving. One cannot exist without the other. And I actually go into this in way more depth in a video that I made last year after I lost my cat, because grief taught me a lot of lessons back then too, as well as over the previous few years of experiencing a lot of loss. And I put it all in a video last year. So go check that out if you haven't seen it or if you just want a little refresher. The second lesson is non-attachment. Death is the ultimate teacher in non-attachment. Attachment, intense attachment, isn't healthy. Now, it's normal in some ways. As humans, we form emotional bonds, which are beautiful. We form attachments to things, to experiences, to our identity, to our life, to our behaviors, to the people around us. It's what gives us a sense of self. It's what gives us our ego. Without attachments, we wouldn't have an ego. We're attaching to our ego even. So it's not really about eliminating the attachments. You cannot do that, in my opinion. But it's more about how we navigate those. Because when we leave this planet, this realm, the attachment will go. Everything will go. And even in the context of manifestation, non-attachment is actually really, really key. Because a lot of people in the manifestation process actually attach or obsess way too much. And that's natural, right? Because there's a big desire to make something happen. But ultimately, attachment just leads to massive resistance. And what you resist persists. When I work with clients, moving through attachments, resistance, and blocks is one of the biggest things. This is why the primary process is about integrating these emotional charges from the past, releasing them, working with the nervous system, its capacity, healing trauma, because your attachment will have a source. And it's not as simple as just trusting the process or practicing a new state of being or thinking different thoughts or saying your affirmations. You need to get to the core of these issues, of these beliefs, of these emotional charges. Not just up here, but you need to actually process and integrate them and ultimately work through them. Now, I often work with people who are either super attached to an outcome, to a person, to a desire, and that's a big job to release that, by the way. If you struggle with that, that's pretty normal. It's not said and done just because you tell yourself you're letting go or detaching or surrendering. But on the flip side, I also often see people who pretend they don't care. And that is often because they are in an energy of defeat. And that's also not the way, because then you just stay exactly where you are. But death teaches us a lot about attachment, because at some point, we all have to release this attachment to anything in life. In a similar vein, let's talk about number 3, impermanence. Death teaches us about impermanence because nothing lasts. Nothing is permanent. And death really shows us that. It's the ultimate teacher. And of course, that goes hand in hand with attachment, right? If you know that nothing ever lasts, how do you choose to live your life? How present can you be? How much can you commit to becoming the best version of yourself? Not in terms of hierarchy, but in terms of most authentic truths to yourself, of embodying your potential, committing to your desires, your evolution, to who you want to become and the life that you want to live. Because the awareness that we're all going to die is actually what makes life precious. So let's use it. Number 4, let's talk about regret. Because it's the saddest thing to get to the end of one's life. And again, we don't know when that will be. And to then regret that you didn't do certain things, that you didn't follow your dreams, that you didn't prioritize it, that you gave up, that you took too long to figure it out, that you've been keeping yourself in what feels comfortable, or that you've been reliving or recreating the past. Because death really teaches you what's important to you. The knowing that we're all going to die gives you the opportunity to make things count, to figure out what matters to you, what you want to do, who you want to be, what you want your life to look and feel like. Don't waste any of it. It's precious. It's a lot shorter than any of us would maybe like it to be. So I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Maybe even lessons that death and loss and grief taught you in your life. And feel free to share this video with a friend who you think could maybe benefit from this. And I'll see you in next week's video.